Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. Here is some very disturbing news about the South African National Defence Force. The South African National Defence Force is mandated by law to protect the borders of South Africa, to protect, among others, the interests of South Africa, both inside and outside South Africa. And apparently the Defence Force is just not up to the task. You will have come across media reports about 14 South African Defence Force soldiers who died recently in the Democratic Republic of the Congo on a peace mission. When I first heard those news, I said to myself, something is not right here. That's what is going on in the DRC. What is the South African Defence Force in the DRC for? And is it worth it, losing 14 of our servicemen in the DRC? There's been a lot of criticism about the South African mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That the South African National Defence Force is just not up to the task. It is under-resourced, has very little by way of hardware to fight the M23 rebels, and they are simply cannon fodder for those rebels. What immediately comes to mind is a criticism that has come from Julius Malema. Julius Malema has on many occasions condemned the fact that the South African National Defence Force, and criticized very strongly the fact that over the years there's been a progressive decline in the budget of the South African Defence Force. In other words, there's been under-resourcing that has occurred over a number of years. That is why Malema has always been very critical of this DRC deployment. And he has said in no uncertain terms, in clear and typical Malema language, that our troops in the DRC are cannon fodder for those rebels that they are trying to fight there. They are in no position to undertake that mandate to maintain peace and stability in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Now, let us get back to the 14 deaths that the South African National Defence Force has suffered in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. What does it say about our capability to carry out that mandate? Our capability to carry out that mandate is simply zero. We do not have the resources nor the political will to carry out a successful operation in the Eastern Democratic of the Congo. As it is, some 2 weeks ago, the M23 rebels overran Goma rather, and they're in control of Goma. Goma is the largest city in the east of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It was in and around Goma that these 14 South African soldiers were killed. Now, it could have been speculation on a lot of analysts' part or observers' part, but we now have it on good authority from General Mapanya. You'll recall that shortly after the death of the 14 South African soldiers in the DRC, the top echelons of the army, the very top echelons of the military rather, told us that, this is not a time to be pointing fingers and that everything was under control. But one General Mapanya at one of the funerals of the 14 soldiers who were killed in the DRC has come out very strongly to say, publicly in the presence of everybody present there, politicians, mourners, you name them. There were many people there. Quite an assortment of government officials. That the South African Defence Force has become, in his words, a Mickey Mouse defense force. That is explosive coming from a general. That is explosive coming from a general. Because it reinforces what some of us have always suspected and speculated about. Now we have it on good authority that the South African National Defence Force has been reduced to a Mickey Mouse defense force. That is why we are seeing all those casualties the army is incurring in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Now, what do we make of this? There is a huge trust deficit now between us, the people, and whatever the top brass of the army tells us. But we now know exactly what is happening with our army. I understand that General Mapanya is under pressure now. Some action is going to be taken against him for making this public disclosure. You see, in South Africa, the usual thing is to shoot the messenger. It is to shoot the messenger, shoot down the messenger, and then the message will die. So some action is contemplated, disciplinary action, because a lot of analysts have been saying, how can a general in the position of General Mapanya be saying all this in public? This is uncalled for. This is unmilitary. You know, it shows ill discipline on his part. But General Mapanya has said what he had to say. Because the lives of men and women are involved in that operation in the DRC. So there are those who are now contemplating taking all sorts of measures, disciplinary measures against him because of this exposure. You see, those measures are taken largely because the powers that be would rather have us not know the truth. This is why those who come forward to disclose what is really happening in the DRC will find themselves in the position of General Mapanya. I can speculate that in the next few days or weeks, some kind of action, disciplinary action, will be undertaken against General Mapanya. It will not surprise me. It will not surprise me. Because this is uncharacteristic for a general to make such a frank admission about the status of the army. Some are saying that this is dangerous talk because it exposes us to our enemies. In other words, if our enemies, let us say our enemies in the DRC, the M23, Rwanda, you name them, because it is Rwanda that is behind the M23. There's nothing like the M23. It is just a Rwandan army doing the bidding for the M23. You know, although Paul Kagame has strenuously denied, the involvement of Rwanda in the DRC, they are just behind the M23, and it is really the Rwandan army that is doing all the killing of the South African National Defence Force. So here we are now with the truth. With the truth. My fear is this whistleblower, this man who will stand up for the truth and what is right, may well find that his job is not as secure as it would otherwise be before he made that statement. But I would like to extend a hand of thanks to General Mapanya. We need men of straw, men of substance, people who will call a spade a spade. Gone are the days when, people would beat about the bush. Fool us. Like the saying goes, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time. Thank you, General Mapaya. Now we know the truth. Let us keep tabs on this story and see what unfolds. I will certainly be bringing you a follow-up to the story. Like I'm saying, there is disciplinary action which is contemplated against General Mapaya because he has rustled quite a number of feathers. There are a lot of people who are uncomfortable by what he has said because he has laid bare the skeleton of the South African National Defence Force. We are capable, the money is there. It's just that somebody has been sleeping on the job. The South African Defence Force is arguably the strongest military in Africa. If it is probably resourced and properly managed. This decline that we see speaks to those who call themselves commanders-in-chief. It speaks to those who are responsible for the annual budget of the Defence Force that has seen it decline progressively over the years. So let us keep tabs on this story, and I'll certainly bring you a follow-up. Having said that, let me thank you for all the views that I'm seeing, and please have a nice day, and wait for the next follow-up to this breaking story. Thank you very much.